for the past 3 years now. And yeah, so we've trained about 300 plus participants, and it's been an awesome journey so far. So thank you so much, everyone. So yeah, the first slide, please. Okay, so before we go on, I would like to ask this question. Do you think being loud will make you an effective Scrum Master? Anyone? Has anyone worked with a micromanager that is actually loud, insultive, and very demeaning to your character? Anyone? How has been your experience? Anyone, please? Okay, so I have actually. So I don't know if most people, I don't think this was mentioned, but I was part of the Scrum Master that led the ALA 2.0 project that we just released in January. And I can tell you that my experience was really not that nice, especially from, the middle managers, because you have to deliver and all of that. And I can tell you for a fact that because of that behavior, it affected the delivery of not just the team, but also my delivery as a Scrum Master. Because at the end of the day, we are humans. Everybody is talking about products. Today, everybody is talking about processes. But at one point, did anyone talk about the engineers that are actually building this particular product? No one is talking about their behavioral psychological thinking, because these people are not robots. Yes, we know AI is coming to assist, but at the end of the day, we should be able to use our human-centric value to be able to talk to them in a way that they can be able to, developers, they don't really care about communication. They only care about coding and stuff like that. But you as a Scrum Master, you have to be the one to be in the place of their mother. Like they said, Scrum is like your mother on the team. Do you understand? So let me start with the art of quiet influence, right? So as I was saying, when we were done with the ALA 2.0 project, I was depressed, I was sad when we were done. It was not even when we started, it was not even when we were in the middle, or even when, we were almost done. We're done, we delivered the project, we went live, and I was so depressed, I was so sad. People tagged me on social media, people congratulated me, and I didn't even have I was not happy about it. And I sat down and I wondered why. I had to even inform my CDO, because I was like, I'm not happy that I just built something, the first AI-empowered digital banking platform in Nigeria. I was one of the Scrum Masters that built it, and I was not happy. I was sad. That what is the issue? And he told me that maybe because of the stress that I went through, and I realized that it was because I was overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed as a Scrum Master, and I'm not the one building the product. Imagine my developers who actually build the product, how they are going to be psychologically, right? So this is what I'm coming to talk about today, about the human-centric part of being a Scrum Master, and the art of building quiet influence on your team. Now, the second slide, I've said this one. The second slide. Now, there are three principles of quiet influence. The first one is active listening. Now, I'm going to be telling a lot of stories. So there was a particular time, I have 2 female engineers on my team. And we have sourced a particular team to work as an external team to work on my team. And I realized that anytime these 2 female engineers and one of the particular engineers on my team, which is a back-end engineer, they're always arguing, they're always quarreling. And I had to sit down and quietly realize that what is causing this problem. So there was one day I called her and I asked her, what exactly is the problem? Because I realized that he just left the meeting, like abruptly. They were talking about some bug issues, about how he wasn't coding well, and he just left the meeting. He didn't even tell them, okay, please, I'm coming, give me a moment to just get something done. He just left the meeting. And I told him that I don't like this behavior on the team. And I asked her, and the next thing she said, she was like, that is how he's always behaving towards female engineers. I was like, so are you telling me you can't be corrected by a female engineer? Is that what he's trying to say? So the following day during the stand-up, I called the stand-up and I asked him. I even tried to antagonize him. I was like, I will ask, okay, can you tell me your updates? And he told me his updates, and I was like, wait. You've been expecting a contract for you for like almost 2 days now. You've not delivered the contract. And the next thing started shouting at me. I'm like, wait, I'm the Scrum Master. Do you expect me not to ask you a question? I'm the Scrum Master. I'm not your fellow engineers that you guys can boast yourself. Do you expect me to not ask you a question why you've not been able to, complete the task? And he started shouting, and I realized there was a gap there. That leads me to being quiet does not mean you are weak as a Scrum Master. Just because your fellow engineers are talking back at you doesn't mean you should not fight back, right? That is why we are change makers on the team, right? So I had to call him privately and ask him, what is the problem? And he said he doesn't like how those ladies talk to him, and he doesn't just like the way they talk. And I told him that this is a working environment. If you don't like it, then you have to inform her. And that was how we cleared the whole thing. And I informed the ladies that they should at least try as much as possible, because we're in a working environment. And because of the culture we've built over time, like I said earlier, we had bosses that will just shout at you, bosses that will just talk to you and really talk to you. And how do we change that culture? We are all talking about processes, but how do we change a culture where we are not focused on the behavioral part of Scrum? So that is what we're going to talk about today. So the next one is empathy as strategy. As I mentioned earlier, I have to privately call each developers and explain to them this is not part of what we do here. And that was how I was able to use empathy as a strategy. So now we're going to talk about how to build Scrum, how the Scrum Master can build trust on the team. According to the Scrum Guide, there are 5 core values that can help Scrum Master to build trust on the team. The first one is what? The first one is respect. Now, like I said earlier, if there was no respect on the team, there is no way we're going to deliver that project. As Scrum Master, we need to not just respect ourselves, but also just transfer the respect to the next person. And just because we are respectful doesn't mean that we should be polite. Respect is not about everyone cannot have a disagreement between ourselves on the team. It means that we are mature enough to have disagreements, come to a concession and be able to agree on something. That is what respect is about. Respect is about the engineers being able to complain about what they don't like, the product owners being able to okay, we want to go live on this project. When are you going to deliver? It's about being outspoken on the team. Nobody should be able to be quiet on the team, because if we are not quiet, we are not building trust on the team, especially when you have a new member on the team. Now the next core value is focus. Now what is focus? Focus is being able to distract the team members. I remember there was a particular day I had a QA that was working on the ALA 2.0 project. And suddenly, one of my senior managers just called me, said, Ame, this QA, I want him to be on another project. I said, no. Do you know the amount of work he's doing on this particular project, and you want him to focus, divide his focus and put it into another project? So I had to plead with him that is there a way to delegate someone else to actually, work on this project? Because if he had to he won't stop this project, because that was not what they asked him to do. They asked him to divide his time to put on this project and also put on the next project. So I had to plead for him. That is why we Scrum Masters were agents, we are change agents, and we should always fight for our team no matter what. So that was how I was able to clear that issue. So that means that is why you have to be focused, because when you are focused, you're actually not just protecting the team, you're also protecting the sprint. And that is how we're going to deliver on the product that we'll be talking about since morning today. Now, the next slide is openness. Openness just means open communication, transparency. Now, I have a new team member on my team. This is like a ritual I do on my team. If there's a new member on my team, I buy lunch for them from the first day. So when he came and he was complaining, he was telling me, Ame, please, I can't be coming to work every day. I'm living in the mainland. My workplace is in the island. I can't be coming to work. I have to encourage him. I say, you have to sacrifice. At least for now, everybody has to sacrifice when they join a team. Because I remember when I joined, I was literally sleeping in the office because I needed to understand the processes of the organization so that I'll be able to deliver well. So I had to tell him that please, just for the time being, you have to make some sacrifices to be able to, deliver on your project. And that was how the guy just became, free on the team. In short, he was asking me, where can I get lunch? And I was like, I can just get lunch somewhere else. And, openness, transparency. And this will help him to build trust within the team. Because if he's not open, if he's not free enough to communicate his challenges to everyone, if he's not going to meet up to a particular task, there is no way he'll be able to communicate it. There won't be transparency on the team. To understand? So that was how I was able to bridge the gap between communication. And there was another thing I liked encouraging on the team, which is peer programming. For example, if a developer who is new on the team does not really understand how the code base works, what happened is I actually asked a senior engineer to assist him from the time being while he's learning. So this is what we call peer programming on the team. So my next slide is commitment. Now, they've said a lot of things today about context switching. And I want to talk more on that. Context switching is basically when, like the example I gave about my QA tester, which was working on one project and was asked to work on another project again. So that is what context switching is. Context switching will distract the team from being committed to their product goal. So this is the reason why we need to reduce context switching on the team. Now, so commitment, basically, please back to commitment. Back to commitment, please. Commitment in Agile is not about burning out for the sprint. It's about collective ownership of outcome. Commitment is not overworking the team. And as a Scrum Master, you need to help the team to what? Sustainable pace. So that means when you are being when you are being called as a Scrum Master to tell your team that, oh, okay, we need someone else to work on this project. You need to fight for your team and tell them that they need to focus on what they've been giving them so that they can work at a sustainable pace. So I want to give another example of something that happened to me recently. So we're working on a project, we're giving a timeline, and then the product owner came and said, we've already started the sprint, and the sprint was like 2 week sprint, and the product owner came and was like, with this sprint that we started for 2 weeks, we need to end it because we need to change some requirements. I was like, but you give us a timeline for 2 weeks. How do we commit to that 2 weeks you've given us? So this is where commitment comes in. For you to fight for your team, to tell them that if you are giving us a commitment for 2 weeks and you're adding a changing requirement at the middle of the sprint, then that means that 2 weeks needs to be increased to that 3 weeks or 4 weeks. So this is how to enable your team so that they will not be committed, they will not have unrealistic goals on the team. So the next one is courage. Courage basically is just about being brave. I said as a Scrum Master, we are change agent, right? So sometimes the most courageous thing as a Scrum Master to do is to not allow anyone to harm the team, like I've been saying earlier. Now, Scrum Master role is just to become a change agent and to challenge thought leadership. I remember by the end of the project for La 2.0, I had a conversation with my line manager, and I was telling him that I didn't like his managing style. My project manager, my line manager literally looked at me and said, no, I'm not a servant leader, I'm a micromanager. And I literally looked at this man, and this is the man that is leading me. You are not a servant leader, and you are leading a Scrum Master. And Scrum Masters are servant leaders. So this is what we need to do. We need to push the management. Like I think the first speaker said today, that there are some changes that we Scrum Master we really love to do, but we can't do it because of the way the management is. Some of this management, they don't even understand Agile. Most of them are still working in the waterfall environment. Now, how do we change their mindset? We need to change our mindset by having them in this particular program. Because if you are here listening to all the things that their bottom line are actually experiencing, I don't think they will be pleased to hear it. So this is the thing about being change agents as Scrum Masters. So next slide, please. Now, quiet influence is not weakness. It is the power to guide a team without dominating them. The best Scrum Masters are not the loudest people in the room. They are the ones with the presence. They are the ones whose presence quietly changes the way the team works. Quiet influence is not silent. Its leadership was built on trust. So the next slide, please. This is actually going to be engaging. This next slide is the Scrum Master as the brain of the team. Now, what happens when you are brain dead? What happens? Are you still going to be functioning? Anyone here? What happens when you are brain dead? Anyone here? You are not alive anymore, right? So there's this misconception that says that Scrum Masters are not powerful enough, or Scrum Masters are weak because we are not loud on the team, we are not loud in the organization, right? So, but we are the brain of the team. Even though we are quiet, we are the brain of the team, because without us, the team is not functioning. So now we have to talk about the Scrum Master as the brain of the team. We connect the systems, because we are the ones in charge of removing blockers, are we not? We are the ones in charge of removing blockers, so we connect the systems, right? We remove blockers and we keep the team balanced. Imagine if there's no Scrum Master on your team right now. Nobody to remove your blockers, because engineers don't like talking. They just focus on coding and programming, or designing, or testing, or deploying. They don't like talking. In short, the 15-minute stand-up meeting, they wish it was shorter than that. So we are the glue on the team. We are the mother on the team. Do you understand? So that is why the Scrum Master is the brain of the human body. Now, who are the product owners? The product owners are the hearts because they drive the vision. They make sure that the product goal is being met. Do you understand? So the Scrum Masters, without the Scrum Masters, you realize that the heart is not functioning. The hands and the legs, which are actually doing the motor work, which are the muscles, they are the developers. Do you understand? Because they're actually the one involved in building the product. Do you get me? So the next time someone asks you, what does a Scrum Master do? Or why do we need a Scrum Master on the team? You tell them that we are the brain, the silent leader that keeps the body of the team alive, agile, and self-organizing. Thank you very much.